There we go. We have officially started. So, Dory, really nice job on that speaker one sheet draft. And you said it was fun. That made my heart happy.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and just know the feedback I give is always with love, right? And it's for you to try on. You may read some of it and be like, no, I think I kind of like it is perfectly fine. Um, the my I feel like my job in this program is to like really deeply share my perspective. That's why you're here. And your job is to decide what fits. So please don't ever feel overwhelmed by the feedback. That is not my intent.
Okay. Yep.
So, um, so we're going to kind of jump in and talk about homework to start with. How did it go? So I know Lisa mentioned she's been like just all over the place. And do you want to tell Dory when you got home this? Oh, you're on mute there, Lisa.
Uh, I was traveling this week, Dory. I got home at 2:30 this morning.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I have not done my homework.
So if you see Lisa with a coffee, we know why. But I know you said you enjoyed doing the speaker one sheet. Did you have any like ahas while you were putting it together? Any different thoughts?
Me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Um,
you're good.
no, I enjoyed it. I think it helped me to actually put my thoughts together better because I've been scattered. Lisa knows me very well, and I'm like a squirrel. I run around like crazy and like have a million ideas and then just can't settle down sometimes on like a definitive like this is the direction I'm going. So it helped a lot in kind of making me a little more decisive about a couple of things. I've already worked with Lisa a little bit already before coming here on my topic, my audience. So that helped coming into this. But even the work that you did, I think I mean, it fit together really nicely and I really enjoyed it.
Good. And that's one thing I love about the one sheet because it's like it's you almost can't be scattered
Mhm.
because there's not a lot of landscape. And event organizers, until they want more, they honestly can't take more than what's on the one sheet, right? It's like, I kind of know who Dory is, I know what she talks about. Okay, yeah, I want to know more. And that's where the content that we're going to talk about today will come in. When you all were thinking about building your speaker business, kind of what do you want it to look like over the next 6 months, maybe a year? What thoughts were coming up for you?
So one thing I'm looking at is I'm writing a book and I am looking at how can I take and create a keynote or several keynotes that will all tie in with the theme of the book. So that was one of my things on the mastermind this week was to settle in on the direction for my book. So I get the direction, you can't write a speech without the direction, right? Yeah, so I've got two or three things that I'll be able to pull from, but yeah, I'm very excited about the topic and what I'm going to do. So up until then, I have been speaking on several different topics. I've got a I guess you could say it's a keynote I'm going to deliver in Houston in September on authenticity.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I love that. One neat thing about having a book is sometimes event organizers can pull from two different budgets to give you your speaker fees. So they'll say, we have this much for speaker fee. Like, I'm making it up. Let's say you go on and you say, in the beginning, my keynote addresses are $6,500. And they say, gosh, Lisa, we only have 5,000. And you can say, well, you know what? Another option would be we could go keynote 5,000. And if you have a learning and development budget, then if you'll purchase my books are X dollars. And over 300 people would be this much more. And you can actually make more because you add that buffer of
Wow.
here's my cost and here's now my profit on each book. So if you sell 300, if there's 300 people in the audience and you price it so that you end up making, $10 a book, you got another 3 grand.
Mhm. Nice.
So a lot of times they have different budgets, and that's kind of nice. The other thing you can do is price your talk inclusive of the book and get your fee up there, and everyone will get a book, that kind of thing. And then we will talk about this in a later week, but the other thing you can do is ask for your book to be in the bookstore
Mhm.
because a lot of conferences have a bookstore, or ask for a table out in the hallway where you can sell your book, and then you bring like a little stripe thing, and or all of the above, right? Because some people be like, okay, cool, I got a free book because it's free to them, and I'd really like to give one to my cousin. Like, I wonder if I could buy another one. And so there's all these options that kind of swirl around the book. So that's very, very cool. Dorinda's computer is here. She's going to switch her. She will switch her. I can see Dorinda in the background. She'll switch her camera here. There we go. Hey, Dorinda. It's good to see. I know I told them you had a Microsoft update.
I've been putting Microsoft Reboot off and putting it off and putting it off. And today it got mad at me and said, forget about it. We're doing it now.
Yeah,
So
exactly. We were just chatting, Dorinda, about this idea of thinking through what our business loosely is going to be like around speaking and workshops. Anything interesting come up for you as you were just thinking about that?
yeah, I haven't thought about it. That's what came up is I need to spend some time thinking about it.
Yeah.
Loosely, I'm working with a former colleague. And so we've got to decide what it is. Is it a bunch of online workshops? Is it speaking engagements? Is it a book? We're still bouncing ideas around. So
Yeah, well, I mean, and very cool, right? You're in the beginning. I love the topics that you lined out in your one sheet, and had some feedback for you when you're kind of ready to take it to that next level. But really nice start on that one sheet too. The other thing I wanted to share with you all is I did hear back from Ann Neville. She is going to be joining us in week 6, and so that's the event organizer who will share her perspective, answer any questions that you've got. I think it's the 12th of July, but it is our final week, and so that's something really really fun to look forward to. As we start to think forward about your homework for this week, I want to give you a little sneak preview about that. You're going to create a working draft of your talk proposal. I'm going to show you an example. I do have a template. And then you're going to create at least one digital key takeaway document. And we're going to talk about updating LinkedIn and how important that is. The things that I would recommend that you do update on your LinkedIn profile. So let's kind of dive into that first topic, which is all about your signature talk proposal. And so just focusing on one talk for our time together. Um, the biggest thing to note, and we touched on this last week, is you can and should build your talk proposal before you build your talk. And if that makes your heart race a little bit, I just want to share I have built talks that never sold. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, and it's a waste. You have the expertise that you have. I guarantee you, sitting there right now today, if we got on a call and brainstorm, you come up with 5 talk ideas on what you could talk about all around your superpower. And you're going to have time. You will typically have months before you're going to deliver your talk. Sometimes you'll have weeks. That does happen, and you'll still be able to do it. And you get to decide if they come back and say, "Well, we'd love to have you. Our event is in 3 weeks." You can decide whether or not that's an engagement that you're going to accept. But I guarantee you can put together a PowerPoint deck and some content relatively quickly because you've already got that expertise. Um, I would say most of the time, I have 4 to 8 months between I signed the document and now I'm going to go deliver the talk. The other thing I would say is as you are creating your content for your signature talk, and I can show you what my folder structure looks like, but create a folder structure where you're going to save everything. A lot of times the next talk is more of a tweak with just a little bit different content. And before you know it, you've got 5, 6, 7 offerings that you can offer. The important thing is to stay really, really organized as you were doing that. Your content we're going to create today removes that barrier to buy. Event organizers, if you think about it like this, event organizers are on the hook for you to be a great addition to their program. They expect to pay for high quality speakers. When you have a very professional package, they look at that and go, oh, I'm going to have to pay this person, right? I'm going to have to pay them well, like offering them, to jump on the stage for exposure probably isn't going to work for this person. And a lot of times we think the barrier to them hiring you is our price. Our price is too high. And I will tell you, it's not that. The barrier is they don't understand what your offering is going to do for their people. They don't understand the value you're going to deliver. And as you are thinking about the proposal that you're going to create, here's a couple things I want you to think about, and then I'm going to go and pull up our program page and show you some examples. Your audience needs to be the hero of the presentation, not you. You're the guide. And so, what do I mean by that? When you're thinking about your proposal, be very careful with the number of times that you use your name, the words me, myself, I. I've gotten one-page proposals that, I'm not kidding, are like 25 times. I this and I that and me this and my that and my journey and my story. And it's like a yawner, right? Nobody wants to hear all about you. Now, is your story part of it? Absolutely. Almost every sentence that you start to write with the words I, me, myself can be transformed into what participants are going to learn, what participants are going to experience, what you are going to deliver. And that is what the event organizers want to hear about. Just like your title. Remember, we talked last week about your title should say, oh, that's me. She's talking to me. Your content has to do the exact same thing. Dorinda shared my example last week of how to become an entrepreneur, how to start a business, or how to start a business with a baby on your hip. Like, ooh, that's me. The other example that I will often give is, it is more specific to women in business, right? So if your audience is women in Fortune 500 executives who want to quit their day job and become an entrepreneur, then you could try a title like Entrepreneurial Secrets for Fortune 500 Female Executives: How to Start a Business That Thrives. And guess what? Men Fortune 500 executives are going to be like, oh, I need to learn that. uh, uh, Employees and companies are going to be interested in that. But we want it to be catchy and specific, along with the content, very, very focused on who your audience is. So I'm going to go out. We're going to start with proposals, and I'm going to run out to our page. Let me blow this up a little bit. And I'll show you an example. Let me share. All right. Oh, you know what? When I share like this, I don't think I'm just going to share my whole desktop. That's better. Okay. So let's go over a little bit of what is actually in week 2, and then I'll jump into the example. You've got your week 2 homework, which is what I just described. You can download it here. You've got your signature talk Canva template, and that's the one that we're going to go over next. I'm going to show you an example. You also have examples of additional content. I want you to choose one and create that as well. And I'll talk to you more about that after we go over the proposal. I've got examples of everything you see on page one. So you'll create your signature talk proposal and at least one of these. I've got two examples up here. You may create multiples. That's fine. A lot of times I do have more than one guide in my talks. And then later we'll talk about this bonus section, which is all about podcasts. So this is the oh,
No, go
oh,
ahead. My cleaning lady's here. I have to take care
oh,
of something important, but
you're
carry on.
good. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So here's the signature talk proposal. Now I will change. You'll see my TEDx pictures on two of these. Um, Sometimes I have my TEDx pictures, sometimes I'll have, something I've created in Canva. This just kind of gives them a little bit of confidence that I can actually talk to an audience, right? Because I've done a TEDx. And so this is my one sheet. I've got the title, the subtitle, how to get a hold of me. It's also your calling card, right? And so, how do you get a hold of me? And I've got a link to my speaker reels. If you don't have speaker reels yet, don't worry about it. You can take that out. We're going to talk about how to create speaker reels and a lot of different options in in our upcoming weeks. So here is my proposal for change leadership. Couple things to note. There's quite a bit of white space. So you don't want a long rambling paragraph because it's hard to consume. Um, it talks about the problem we're going to solve at the top. So far, I haven't said anything about me, right? Leading large scale change is one of the most difficult challenges we will face during our careers. A little bit about that. A little bit of excitement. Leaders with demonstrated competency are in high demand. Like, this is the what's in it for me. During this talk, you will learn how to differentiate yourself by serving as a strong executive sponsor or frontline leader. Here's what we're going to do together. I haven't talked anything about me, right? And my name's not in here. The I, me, my, none of that's here. Now, some of my talk proposals do have a little bit about me in it, but not a lot. Um, every time I look at these, I'm like, ugh, I should change that. Uh, so the outcomes. I use outcomes and not learning objectives because that means something different to L&D people. And so I like to use outcomes, key learnings, 3 to 4 bullets tops. If you can keep them from wrapping, that's better. Obviously, mine are wrapping. Sometimes I end with the key learnings. Sometimes I I will do what I did here, put key learnings in the middle and end at the bottom. And then something exciting at the end, right? That makes me want, like, yes, I need that in my life. The only place I mention myself in this particular one is right here. Join me to learn how to da 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 da. So this is all about the participant, what they're going to learn, identifying what the problem is. Uh, how is what I'm doing going to help them? The next one, can't remember, might be a little bit different. Okay, this is the inner critic one. Uh, so, is your inner critic designing your future? Um, and so it again has that feel of, yeah, that's me. I do have that critic in my head. Sometimes I'll use we, us, but you can see this is all about the participant. And again, that final line, learn how to do more brave things, dream bigger, and experience more joy in your life. Don't let your inner critic create your future. It's, oh yeah, I need that. And then this one I have more key takeaways, but I did use the key takeaways at the very, very end instead of in the middle. So two different ways to look at it. Now the template, it is a very, very loose template. And it's right here, signature talk template. I'm going to actually take you into Canva. I want to go back to my projects and I want to go into week 2. Hang on. There is something I'm going to show you in that other folder a bit later, but Da, 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 da. Why is it not showing me all of my folders? Okay, here we go. So this is your proposal template when you click on it. Add your picture, add your email address. This is kind of your calling card. If you've got a link to speaker reels here, if you don't, that's fine. Most talks don't require it. Your talk title and then your bullets. So that is the template, and you've got two examples. So creating that draft. Oh, and I will show you this too because Canva's kind of funny in this way. I'm going to move y'all up to the top of my screen. When you click share and download, it's going to usually default to PNG. You're definitely going to want a PDF for this because it's multiple pages. So you just click this down arrow and choose documents, PDF standard, best documents for documents and emailing. So you want to choose that one for this so that you do get that nice PDF. We'll talk next about guides and why those are so important, but I just kind of want to pause here. When you're thinking about your talk proposal, what questions do you have? Questions? Anything coming up,
What are the
Lisa?
things besides not talking about yourself? What are some things you don't want to put into a proposal? Like
Um,
that you've
so,
seen that people do and you're like, no, 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 that doesn't go there.
well, the details of what you're going to tell them.
Okay.
You know, so for example, I've got a three-step process for how to quiet your inner critic. You're not going to tell them what those three steps are. You can say in your bullets, you're going to learn a three-step process for quieting your inner critic, but don't tell them what they are, right? You want to really create that curiosity. The other thing is be very, very careful using AI. There are some AI tells, if you will. Um, First of all, it doesn't sound like you. You know, it's not how you would, if you were going to talk to me and tell me about your talk, if you read, now I use AI, make no mistake. I put as much of me in it. I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about that. I want it to be no more than 500 words. I want it in a conversational tone, blah, blah, blah. But if there are a lot of, in other words, da 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 da, or um, in today's world, blah, blah, blah. That's an AI tell. And so, absolutely, if you would like to use AI, I highly encourage it. And then look at it and say, would I really talk to someone? If I was on a phone with an event organizer telling about my talk, would I really say in today's world, you know what I mean? Then you're going to want to go rewrite that. So that would be the other caution. The other thing I'll say is I use proposals for a lot of things. Sometimes I post them on LinkedIn. I do have some at the top of my featured things featured content. You can drop it as a PDF in calls for speakers. You can do a copy and paste. A lot of times I will actually create the PDF and then Word document because Word documents are just easier to copy and paste from than a PDF is when I'm updating my calls for speakers. And I also do this after I've spoken for a company. So, like a couple weeks ago, I went to speak at the SDA conference. A couple weeks later, I'll say, as you're planning next year's events, here's a few more talks you might be interested in bringing me in for. And I'll attach my PDF and maybe my speaker one sheet with all of the options at the bottom. So there's lots and lots of ways that you can use it. What else are you thinking about your talk proposal before we jump into the other content and why it's so important? All right. If anything else comes up, oh yeah, Dorinda.
I was just putting this in chat, but Grammarly, if you use that, which I do, has an AI checker.
Oh,
and it'll give you a score for how AI-ish your document is.
I love that.
Yeah, so it'll pull out those tells. Yeah.
That's very cool. I love that. I had no idea.
So
I
you
love
use
when
AI to find AI, basically. Yeah.
no, I love that. That is super cool. So, yep. So that is one of your pieces of homework. So the second one, creating uh, a guide. And so this is why these are so important. I'm going to show you examples first, and then we're going to talk about why they're important. And you all will choose which one you're going to use. So let me share my desktop. Let me get you back here to June. Okay. I'm going to show you my examples. Um, this is a talk guide for, oh, hang on. I always do this. Speaking with Confidence, Tips for Ambitious Women and Their Allies. This one doesn't have the talk title. I'm going to show you another one that does. This one's long. They're not all this long, but it is the things I talk about from the stage. So I've got PowerPoint slides where I talk about things like how to showcase your work, how to speak up in meetings, because one of the things I talk about in this talk is uh, the likability penalty that women pay. So, how can we be what Harvard Business Review calls lovable stars, competent and likable, without minimizing our thoughts and ideas as we enter conversations? And so, scripts and tips for work conversation is replacements, right? How to enter a conversation. And so, these are the things that I talk about from the stage. I'll give you another example. I'm actually going to go into, and I wanted to do this anyway, show you an example of what I mean when I say start staying organized from the very beginning.
Mhm.
So here is my speaking packages, my keynotes and presentations. And in each of these, I have these folders. So critical thinking, I'll just pull up my critical thinking guide. So in my critical thinking guide, you can see it's not me. Like some of them have me, but this one does not. I always do a brief intro and then the critical thinking skill stack. So for critical thinking, there's 6 skills in the skill stack. And I talk about these from the stage. And now they've got this takeaway guide. They don't have to remember everything that I say. They don't have to take notes. And I'll tell them that. You don't have to take notes. I've taken the notes for you. You've got it in your critical thinking guide. Feel free to take notes and know that it's there. So here's why I do this. There's several reasons. One is they can make the transformation later. If they just come and listen and I don't give them a guide that reminds them what they learned, they're going to leave there and be like, well, that was a great class, Carly, or a great talk, but I only remember one of the skills in the skill stack, right? And so you're giving them that digital content. The other reason that this is so important is, da, 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 hang on, this. It's your calling card. They loved you. They want to tell their boss about you to bring you into their next company event. Your content is right there. Here's the other thing. Event organizers freaking love this because a lot of speakers do not do this. This is added value that you're bringing that other speakers are not bringing. So how do event organizers use this? Typically, if they have an event app, this is in the event app. Guess what? Whether somebody, if you're in a breakout, whether somebody came to your event or not, they get to get the guide. They get to see what it is you talked about and potentially refer you. This is a way for you to sell from the stage without selling from the stage. You're delivering a ton of value. You're focused on that. And now they've got the guide that they can use and they've got your information. The other part, and I always share this with speakers. It's super important for you to provide a path for some kind of a transformation. Doesn't have to be, gigantic, but how are they going to implement what you've shared with them? A lot of times, because my content can be very similar, I'll use the same guide for multiple talks, and it's almost like a bonus guide. So I'll show you an example of that. In my Courageous Conversations, I have a guide, and I use this for multiple talks, questions to ask and avoid. Boy, that's big. Let me shrink that down. And this one is super short. Your guide to asking great questions. Not all questions are created equally. Here's some questions to ask. Here's some questions to avoid. Was that clear? Does that make sense? Did I explain that well? Instead, ask these questions, and here's how to connect with me. This one is 2 pages, and it's super versatile. And so, by the other thing is, you may be looking at that going, that's going to be hard to create. That's not hard to create at all, because guess what? It's your talking points in your PowerPoint. Like when you create your PowerPoint and you jot in your talking points, you can take that and turn it into a guide really, really easily. The other thing about talks, I would avoid putting much information on a slide. Mine are all images with a headline, and there's a couple reasons for that. A lot of times the event organizer will ask you for your PowerPoint. I don't like that. That's my content, and I really don't want to give away my PowerPoint. I do want to give away the guide, though, because that's how you're going to find me, and that's how you're going to make the transformation. So I'll say my PowerPoints are all images. I don't think it's going to be of any value to your folks. It will be of value. I have these things. If they insist on it, I will give it to them, and I will do it in PDF format. That way they don't see the speaker notes. They don't get a PowerPoint. And in reality, the secret sauce is you and not that PowerPoint deck. And so you're really not giving away too much. But a bunch of pictures is not going to do them any good, right? It's just, and people don't want to read. Really, what a PowerPoint should be is you giving them an image that supports what you're talking about. And for me, it helps keep me on track. So there's a couple of talks where there's 2 or 3 things that I would forget to say over and over again. So I just insert a slide. That way, when it comes up, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to talk about this now. And it's a picture with a heading. I'll show you just so you kind of get the feel of what I'm talking about. In case you're like, I don't understand. I'll pick on. There's a couple of the slides in here that do have words, but not a lot. So I'm just going to cruise through this and you'll see what I mean. So now if you got a PDF and all you saw was, these titles, it's like, okay, this helps a little bit, but this is not terribly helpful when I'm at home and I'm trying to do the thing that you told me to do. I mean, yeah, these would help, but the detail on how to do that is in I'm not sharing, am I?
No.
No, that was special.
I was trying to follow in my mind, but it was hard.
Yeah, no, you can't. So I'm gonna go back to the top. So Courageous Conversations. Here we go. The details in the speaker notes, and guess what? Those speaker notes are in my guide. So it's not, and this one's kind of fun because it's actually a video. And so while I'm talking, this gal's just super frustrated, right? But I'm just talking while she's kind of doing her thing. But you can see this is okay, it'll be somewhat helpful, but really not materially helpful. And so all of those speaker notes are in the guide. For some talks, I just blow the picture up all the way and there's not even a header. So this is, to me, the best way to create a deck. It keeps the audience engaged. It helps you remember where you're at in the talk, and they've got other content that's going to help them. The guide is just one. So I'll show you a couple of others that you can choose from. I always do the guide, and sometimes I add some of the others. So when you're thinking about your digital content that for your talk guide, and then we'll jump into these. Any questions that you have about that?
I actually have a few, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Um, it's a little off topic, but kind of
Yeah.
website. My website right now is all about my coaching and hypnotherapy business. You're putting on here your website. Should I have a separate website for my speaking business?
I have too many websites. That's just the truth. I started building my business. I don't like my first one, the Professional Woman's Mentor. I only called it that because I was still in corporate and I didn't want to be perceived as doing something competing. I think if I remember right, Dory, isn't your website your name?
It is.
I would just create a separate tab for speaking. I would not
Okay.
create a separate website.
Okay.
And then you've got your speaking opportunities there. You could even, potentially put your one site. When you've got some reels, you can add them there, and then you can send people to that page.
Okay. Awesome. The
Yeah,
sec Sorry, the second question I had is around the PowerPoints. Do you find that most places PowerPoints are allowed or they're set up for? Okay.
always. I've never
Okay.
done a talk or a workshop where that wasn't the case.
Okay.
Have
I
Okay.
you,
expect
Lori,
it.
have you run into limitations with PowerPoint anywhere, Dory?
I have actually. I've spoken at a couple of places. The first, when I got at the venue, they did not have a projector or anything set up. So I had to go off there were no slides. It's happened actually twice. So, being for me, it was about being prepared to not have it. So I had actually, 'cause part of my story is what I looked like 20 years ago. I looked like a totally different person. I was stressed over like really overweight, smoked, drank, all this stuff. And so it's pretty, it's one of the things I show. So I just happened to have my picture printed out and it was a small group and just kind of showed it. But yeah, I've had problems in the past.
So I include in my contract what I need.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and,
Get it
the,
out
and
first.
yeah, and if I get a contract that doesn't, usually it'll say, we'll have these things available to you. I'll go back and ask them to edit it and include, a couple things, a projector, a clicker. I always bring my own, you guys, I bring as much as I can. I bring a clicker, I bring a thumb drive with my talk on it in case somebody screws up and doesn't have it. I have a Mac, so I bring all of the connectors. But I would ask them for that. The other thing is, I always ask for a lavalier because I don't stay on the stage. Even in a keynote, sometimes, well, depending on how many people are there. If there's like 300 or more, I will stay on the stage. But I'm walking around and I am not standing behind the podium, so I need a lav mic. I also ask for a mic runner in the at the event. So if there's questions, I've got a mic runner that will run around so everybody can hear the questions. So just think through, what do you want to have and make sure that it's in the contract. And if they don't want to augment the contract, have them confirm via email that you're going to have these things available.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have had a couple of times recently where people won't use anything Microsoft. They want Google. And so that's been kind of a weird one.
That is strange.
And I'm seeing it more and more.
Hmm.
So
I think I would welcome them to put my PowerPoint deck into Google then. Like,
yeah.
I'm not doing that work for you. As a speaker, here's my deck. You want it in a different format, go for it. Because I don't have the time to learn all the different ways. You can actually do a presentation in Canva too. Like, the Canva has really cool presentation capabilities. I don't use it yet. I might at some point, but um, yeah, that would be a tough one. I think I'd have to tell them, then here it is, go put it in Google.
Yeah. Well, Google's one client that wouldn't want Microsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't know how to do it.
I don't
Maybe it's
either. And
easy.
yeah. I like
I
your
could,
suggestion though. Here it is. Make it so.
yeah, I mean, I could Google it. How do I turn PowerPoint into Google? And if it's too hard, I just say it's not a capability I have. Have at it. Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah, you can just upload your slides into Google. So put it in your Google Drive and it turns it into Google Slides.
Well,
That
there you
one's really
go.
easy. But
Excellent.
yeah, I've used Canva for all of my webinars. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got you can like move things around,
Yeah.
and I just got to learn how to do it better. Anything else about the talk guide? To me, this is the non-negotiable one. I always create a talk guide.
I did a talk recently, and this is just a watch out for this. I did a talk recently, and they said, "Oh no, no, we don't. We're going to give you a portable handheld mic instead of a lav." And the
Ugh.
problem with that is you're going around trying to do this and hold at the right angle while you're walking around trying to talk to people. It was horrible. And so I will never accept that again if I can avoid it.
Yeah, and then I talk with my hands. And
Yeah.
so if you're a hand talker, your mic's giving it this
Yes.
number. So the other thing is test, whether it's a lav or a mic. And all the rooms are different, but they'll all have like big speakers up typically. How close you can get to those speakers without it screeching. Like I would do that test before, and usually, well, always they'll have a mic check, and so you can walk around and kind of test that out to know where you need to stay away from. Um, so talk guide, not negotiable. These others you do have examples or you have Canva templates for. So we talked about the talk guide. You might want to do an assessment. I have several assessments. People love assessments. If I can fill it out and it'll tell me something, I am all in. So critical thinking assessment, some instructions up front. Again, it's the same. This is pretty much the same content I had in my guide. Now I'm just having them calculate where are they today? Where do they want to be? What's the gap? And for the six skill gaps, and then what's their gap score? And what are they going to focus on to create a plan for? Not hard to create. And so assessments are super, super engaging. Journaling prompts. This one's got hideous colors, but pretend it doesn't. Um, and this is again my critical thinking talk, right? So here's some questions to ask yourself and journal about it. Here's some questions to ask yourself and journal about it, right? Um, and then a checklist. Everybody loves a checklist. So I have Rise Sister membership, and we did one, the magic of 100-day goals. I did a whole session on it, and now you got a checklist. Here's what you got to do. It's a couple pages, and so whatever it is you're going to create, definitely do the talk guide. As you create more and more guides, you're going to find that you can use the same guide sometimes, not always, but sometimes for multiple talks. Some of my talks actually will give them three guides because if I have content that's going to support them in that journey, I'm going to give it to them. So you don't have to create the what I would recommend do anything, but what I would recommend is you create your signature talk proposal. If you've already got an idea of what you want in your talk guide, you can even just put headers for now. You don't have to fill it all the way out. But when you create your PowerPoint, you're going to want to come back and fill in these are the things that I talk about in the talk that I want them to remember. The other thing that I love about having a talk guide as a speaker is sometimes I forget to say things, like there's something that I really want them to know, but I realize later, shoot, I didn't even say that thing. Well, guess what? It's in the talk guide. So it's okay. I don't have to remember everything. So it kind of takes that pressure off. Um, any questions about the additional content, how you might use it?
How about printing and packaging it for handouts? How do you do that?
Yep, I make them do it. That is so damn expensive. So like the SDA conference is a perfect example. I showed you I did two talks for them. Critical thinking was one of them, and I said to the event organizer, the talk guide can be digital. The assessment needs to be digital and printed. Please have enough printed and at the workshop for every participant. Sometimes it's a table discussion, and so maybe I only need two per table, but I have the event organizer do it. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to transport it. I don't want the responsibility of making sure it gets in the room. And usually there's leftovers, and guess what? I take those with me. If nobody else is going to take them, I take them because then when I'm back in Phoenix, if I'm doing a local event, I've got assessments printed out.
So you just provide them with a printable file and tell them to go for it.
A PDF. Yep, here's the PDF. Please make it available digitally, and I need a copy for each participant, or I need two copies for each table.
And
They're happy.
the PDF resources, do you prepare those in editable PDF so somebody really, or do you do simple PDF?
I do simple PDF. I don't know how to do editable
No, do I.
PDFs. And so I have thought about doing that. I think it requires different software. And I don't know, I'm a little bit old school too, and I'll tell you why. When we're in a workshop and I want you to fill it out, I actually want pen to paper. I want you writing, filling it out, and then you're going to have a discussion about it. I don't want people on their computers.
Yeah, and if you've got an hour, you don't want to spend 10 minutes debugging the internet.
No. And
Good
so I
point.
want everything right there, and I want you focused there at your table.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it wouldn't be a good idea, Dorinda. I mean, you could make, say, the one that's digital editable, and then the other one is printable. That's too much moving around for my
Yeah.
brain. What other questions or thoughts do you have around the additional content?
How often, and I'm not asking for exact specs, or it's data, but how often do you get follow-on business from your guides and your handouts? In other words, people in the audience call and say, hey, come talk to our organization or whatever.
It's not super often. Like I had a lady come up to me at the end of the SDA conference who wanted me to do a talk for their organization in October. I'm already booked on that day. So now she wants to book me for 2026. She gave me an email address that doesn't work. I reached out to the SDA event organizer. She gave me the same email address. And so I thought, oh, thank God she's got the guide, right? Because she can find me. I can't find her. I can't find her on LinkedIn. I'm like, maybe at this point I imagined it. But I have had people reach out to me, and I'm trying to think. I think SDA is one. So I did a workshop, and she got the guides, and she saved my contact information and called me, and that's how I got the SDA gig. So um, I would say it's not often, and I have gotten work through there. Most of my work is through referrals and repeat clients, not so much from the guides. I have had people reach out to me on LinkedIn like a year later and say, hey, I wanted to connect with you. I really enjoyed blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, they must have looked at the guide to find me, right? So yeah, it's not super often. I think it it is good for a calling card. And when I send an event organizer a proposal, like let's just say someone has contacted me like, hey, I'm really interested in bringing you in, either before we get on a call or after, I'll send them the whole package. Like, here's my talk. Here's a proposal. Here's the guide your participants will get. And so then they're like, ooh, this is super cool. And the Udemy online courses I shared with you last week, a lot of times I'll include a free seat to those classes as well. And they just love all that additional value. Anything else about guides?
I love that you call them guides. They're not workbooks. They're not, yeah, they're guides. I like that a lot because it gives flexibility to what they contain.
Yeah, 100%. Lisa.
Yeah, one other thing I've done, and I did this on a guide as it was a follow-up to a quiz that I do online, is I created a Spotify playlist. So
Oh,
if you think about your topic, and you can even go to AI. So I've got a reinvention quiz, and when you take the quiz, there's four different types of outcomes you could have. I created a Spotify playlist for each of those types. So if somebody is this type of, they're thinking of reinventing themselves from this angle, I think it's like 25 different songs they could play on the Spotify playlist.
oh, how fun is that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was fun to put together. Um, so if you're looking like you want to like personal development, that's why you want to reinvent yourself. Or maybe you had a life change, life status change. And just ask AI the question, if I were to create a playlist for this situation. So like you had your critical, what was it that,
Critical
with that.
thinking.
And then it will give you a list of songs and you can go and create your own Spotify playlist for that.
Now, and how fun is that, right? You could have a digital takeaway
Mhm.
that's beautifully done in Canva that says Spotify, playlist for this Spotify,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
have that as a takeaway. I'm going to close this bright, sunshiny window, y'all. Hang on.
So, Lisa, do you provide that playlist as a takeaway for the for your clients?
Yeah, so if somebody takes the quiz, whatever style they are, they get to download, I think it's like a 10-page guide and it's got journal prompts
Oh,
in it. It's got a little bit of information about it, some teaching in it. And then I created it, I think it says the title of so I own the playlist. It comes off of my account, which you can do for free. And it's just a link. They click on it and it will open up the playlist in Spotify, and they don't have to have an account either.
that's very cool.
I love that.
Yeah,
And it's
because if
customized
you,
for their outcomes.
yes, yeah, and I created four different ones.
That is such a fun, unique thing to do. And that's what I mean. These takeaway, they can be a lot of different things. If you see something
Mhm.
someone else does, you're like, that's freaking cool, then you can
Yeah.
create something similar. Love that. All right, we're going to jump into the bonus content. And this is what Dorinda was talking about last week, the value of getting on other, I love getting on other people's podcasts. I've been on Lisa's twice. Um, it it gets you in front of their audience. These are their people. It's a whole new community for you to be introduced to. Um, I I don't have to do a ton of prep. Lisa's got the hard job, right? I show up and answer Lisa's question. I mean, I'm gonna listen to a couple episodes and I'm gonna pay really attention, think about, the content that we're gonna deliver, but all that editing and formatting and those things are not what I do. So here's a couple of the reasons I love being on other people's podcasts. Typically, they're going to give you marketing collateral. You're going to get a screenshot or a real quick clip, and you can use that to promote on social media, and you should. And you amplify the podcaster's social media posts and just really be a great guest. Part of that is thinking about all the ways you can add value to that community because the podcast host is going to ask you at the end, talk to us about some ways we can work with you, right? And so you don't want to be like hammering that throughout your answers in the actual podcast. A couple of ways to book podcasts is going to look very, very familiar. I've got the podcast one sheet here, the Canva template. It just looks a little bit different. So this is a really when I put this together, I got the Lisas of the world in my mind. Okay, she's got a podcast. Well, you know what, Lisa? If you're looking for a guest, here's some things that I can talk about on your show if you're interested. Here's some past podcast experience that I've been on. If you want to take a listen to some of the things that I've done, here is my websites and marketplaces. If you want to take a look at some of my work, and so it just does some of the work for your podcast host so that they don't have to go, looking. I've got some pitch examples. I'm a little bit nervous to show you because we have the lovely Lisa on. And you may be like, oh, no, I hate that podcast pitch. But you'll see, I like it short. They don't have a lot of time. I ran across your podcast. I love the theme of the show. I'm going to check out the back issues. If you're looking for future guests, this is what's key. I'd love to explore how I could bring an interesting perspective to your show. I've attached a one sheet. Please let me know if you're interested. Or I'd be thrilled to chat about how I can bring value and interesting perspective, something. This is not your opportunity to say, hey, Lisa, I am freaking awesome. Let me tell you all about me. It's about her audience and how you can bring value. I also included a podcast tracking template just because sometimes when I'm out really pitching to podcast hosts, I don't remember the host, the show. I have no idea. Or who already said no? I don't want to bother that person again. Whether it's usually through email, because a lot of times if I do it on LinkedIn, that's easy, right? You send them a chat, you attach your podcast one sheet, you can see what they said. But just kind of keeping track of um, who you've sent information to, kind of, where you've been. And so as a speaker, this is fantastic because you get an opportunity to amplify your message, talk about your passion, bring value to that audience. And whether you're doing speaking, you're doing workshops, you've got a book that you're launching, your podcast host is going to help you out at the end. And then they'll include the links on how they can contact you. So this is a bonus bundle that I put together because I got a lot of questions about, well, how do you book podcast? I said, oh yeah, podcasts are a great way. And they're like, how do you do that? So this is how you do that. So I'm just going to pause there. Lisa, you are the expert here. You've got a podcast. Does what else would you add? Does that resonate? What changes would you make?
Yes. So I love the fact that your email is short because I probably get 1 to 2 emails a day of people pitching to be on the show.
Oh,
And most of them come from people who have hired agents to do this for them. Um, so a couple of things I want to know is have you listened to the podcast? And if you have, and if you tell me you love a show, a particular episode, I want to know why. Because if you just say, I love this episode with so and so, I'm like, yeah, but did you really listen to it or not? Right. So tell me, give me one point of why you love the episode. So I know that you've listened to the show. The other thing is, I love that you refer me to the one sheet. Because if I see a big bunch of text in an email, I don't want to read it because you're going to sound like a podcast promoter. And I know that's all they do all day long. And what has happened in my situation is some of them, I think, do you even know what my show is about? Like the number of people that pitch people who do exactly what I do or do, like I'm good for them, but I'm not going to bring them on my show and feature them, right? Um, and let's see, the other thing. Oh, so there is a service called podmatch.com that if I am looking for guests and I don't know, just kind of the way my world works. So like whenever I speak with someone, I'm like, would they be a good fit for the show? yes, no, or it depends on the time, right? Because I have a production, I run in themes. So just make it easier for that podcast host because again, it is the work. On that one sheet, put some those questions that I can ask you that gives me an idea of where to start. And then what you want to, because when I bring you on the show, I want to know, do you have a giveaway for my listeners, right? So if you have a downloadable PDF or a recording or whatever it is that you have that in your mind ready because that makes it more valuable for my audience. Yeah.
Love that. Any questions for Lisa? I mean, it's so cool that we have her here and she can answer those questions about hosting.
Great suggestions. How long's your podcast been going, Lisa?
I think this week will be episode 180.
Well,
So 180 weeks, 3 or 4 years,
so every few weeks you do one?
every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. Excellent. That's a lot of work.
It is, it is. But what I do is, Dory's been on the podcast. Hers was a really fun one. But well, every time I can say that about everybody I talk to. That was such a great conversation, right? But I kind of go in themes. So this last year has been about reinvention. And then I moved into a theme of you get to choose, set up your boundaries, and a lot now about authenticity. But like this one last week it was a really different one. It was a solo one that I really just had a real and raw conversation with one person listening, right? Like that's what I didn't have a big audience in my mind. I was talking to that one person who is out there right now feeling stuck and struggling and just, with just everything that you see in the news and the marketplace is changing. Like a lot of people are just like, what am I doing? Right? Or a lot of people in my marketing world are I'm ready to burn it all down. It's not working anymore. So it was more of a pick you up, empowering, inspiring kind of, it's okay. Yeah.
I love the theme idea too, because then your audience knows what to expect. And I think
Mhm.
if you can outline the things you can talk about in your
Mhm. Oh,
podcast
yeah.
one sheet, Lisa can look at that and go, oh, you know what? It's not exactly that, but it's kind of close. Maybe I'll have a
Mhm.
conversation with her and see if she fits.
Mhm.
But yeah, the whole idea of the one sheet is just like the event organizer, right? Lisa said it, make it easy for me. Show me what
Mhm.
you got, show me your links, give me your contact information. And that's the same thing we're doing with event organizers. We're making it easy for them to very quickly see if they think we might be a fit.
Mhm. And I
So
think the other thing too is you may not be a fit now, but that doesn't mean you won't be a fit in 6 months.
that's right.
So I've got a sales trainer that I want to bring on, but I just had a salesperson on, right? And so I need to spread it out so I don't get oh, she's the one who always has people on talking about sales.
Yeah,
Do you get
perfect.
ideas when you get a proposal? Do you get a topical idea from the proposal sometimes?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Do I get ideas
So when
from
you get a proposal from someone,
Oh, okay.
do you often say, "Ooh, that's a great idea. We should do a topic around that"?
Oh, yes, because they're bringing their expertise and perspective that um I may be talking about authenticity and they want to come on and talk about how to train people to do sales. So I might see something in there where they might just have one little line about maybe something about mindset, right? And then that makes me connect to, okay, I'm talking about authenticity. How can our mindset help us show up better for a sales conversation when we feel safe to be authentic? Right? So I'm trying to, yeah, give me some material that can maybe connect to what I'm doing. But if you've done the work, like you've listened and seen, And typically, I can, well, like right now, I'm about 3 weeks ahead, but sometimes I might be 2 or 3 months ahead, just depending on who I've met and, kind of my
Yeah.
schedule and all of that.
Love that. All right, last topic to talk about is your LinkedIn profile. And we are going to talk about LinkedIn a lot, y'all. For this week, I would love for you to update your LinkedIn profile, your headline, to say you're a speaker. Now, how you do that is up to you. Maybe you just say speaker, maybe you say professional speaker, maybe you say workshop facilitator. I'm going to pull up my LinkedIn profile real quick. I always get nervous because I'm like, oh, did I do this right? Okay, here we go. A couple different ways. So, right here, my headline, actually, my banner behind me says Carla Howard, professional speaker. No doubt what I do. In my um, in my what do you call this? Your headline here, professional speaker, change strategy. These are all the things that I do, right? Get paid from a stage founder. Um, Event organizers are going to search LinkedIn for speakers. They'll put professional speaker, they'll put speaker. So you want to get a hit on that. The other thing is um, if you submit a package to an event organizer and they come over here and your corporate title's here and there's just a regular old banner back here and there's nothing on your page that says you're a speaker, they're probably going to keep looking. The other thing that I would recommend is get recommendations. Um, Make sure they're current. I need to get recommendations for 2025. I'm okay if they're 2024, but I like to have multiple for the current year. So like when I went to SDA, I did send the event organizer a request. You click on this little button to request. Is that the one? No, that's a ask for a recommendation. I did send her a request. Haven't heard back. I'm doing another talk um, coming up. I'll again ask for that recommendation. But you want current recommendations and you want them around, speaking or like I have speaking, I have get paid from the stage. Here's one from the Nonprofit Alliance when I spoke there last year. So this is 2024. It's still pretty current and I've got 60. I've got 60 recommendations. Now, is anybody going to read all 60? Absolutely not. They might click on this to read a few more, but they are not going to read all 60. The fact that I have 60, though, that is social proof. They go, wow, she's got 60 recommendations. Some of them have nothing to do with speaking, y'all. They're my corporate career, right? But you want, when people land here, you want them to know that you're a speaker or you're a workshop facilitator or, you've got a book coming out. The blah, blah, blah book is launching in 6 months, or whatever it is that you want to draw their attention to. But what I want to see is in some way you have identified yourself as a speaker. The other thing is be very, very deliberate about your engagement on LinkedIn. Talk about your area of expertise, your thought leadership, post about it, comment about it on other people's posts. Please do not say, if Lisa puts a great post out there about critical thinking, I'm not going to go on Lisa's thread and say, great point, Lisa. That's why I created the critical thinking talk, right? This is not your opportunity to do that. It's your opportunity to support Lisa, share some insights that are going to be valuable to their community, and that is it. And then post pictures of you at events, create videos of events, share other people's posts and why it resonated with you. That supports them and it supports you. One thing that I do is and Janice, my executive assistant, actually does this. I take videos and pictures, and I have event organizers take pictures of me at events. And then in Canvas, she creates a short video. And then after the event, I post that video and say, had a great time at the conference, blah, blah, blah. It supports the event and it supports you as a speaker. Um, Question: did I show you any of those videos last week?
Mm-mm.
Okay, then I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I've got them pinned at the top of my profile. So let's go. I share my desktop. So at the top, if I go to my real profile, well, they're here. So like this is one. There's a few more. Let me show you all the things I've got here. That's the one that we did for SDA. Here's one from AIM. So there's a couple of them I could show you, but here's the, those are kind of fun. And they're not terribly difficult to create. And they promote that event. They show you as a speaker. People go, wow, I didn't know she spoke on that. Now I'm interested. So just know that whether they find event organizers find you through LinkedIn or they go there after you've piqued their interest through calls for speakers, through direct outreach, by referral by someone else, they are going to check out your LinkedIn profile. So make sure it's current, you're sharing, you're communicating, they can see your thought leadership. And it says, I am a professional speaker. Questions about LinkedIn?
Yeah, I have a generic question, and
Yeah.
that is, I know that you work, you do some teaching for ProSci, you do consulting, you do
Mm-hmm.
speaking. How do you do this in 24 hours in a day?
No.
So, and maybe it's not a conversation, maybe you're going to cover that later in the course, but how do you, or do you mentioned Janice,
Mm-hmm.
how do you get the right kind of help at the right time for the right things?
Um, So I do use Janice, not a lot, but I use her, I think 60 hours a month. And then I have one other person who helps me with some of the things I'm not so great with on the consulting side. Um, but generally, I do almost all of it. And the way that I get it all done is I am super deliberate about what moves the needle and what does not. I look at my planner every morning and I go, okay, I had planned on doing that. You know what? Doesn't move the needle. I'm not doing it. Um, and I don't spin. So I will decide what I need to do and take action and keep moving and allow myself to be imperfect along the way. Just keep moving, go, keep moving, go. Um, and then I'm really deliberate about my downtime too. So like at 9:30, my husband and I are jumping on the four-wheeler. There's, yard sales up here. We're gone for the day. But it is organization. That is my best friend. I create it once, I put it over. I literally look at an email one time. I delete it, I take action. That's it. I'm not going to get caught up in the spin. The other thing that I've learned is just because somebody wants something from me doesn't mean I owe them a response. So I get a lot of um, questions through forums, right, on my website. Like they're there for a reason, but they use them for something different. Oh, we have this great product I'd love to show you. When is a good time for you? I don't owe them a response. That's a delete for me. DMs in my LinkedIn, don't owe you a response. Just because you jumped into my DMs doesn't mean you get to take any of my time. I'm not doing that. So I would say that is how. And then, just being real honest with myself about what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. I'm not good at creating those videos. Janice rocks it, so I'm happy to pay Janice for doing that.
Thanks.
And I try to repurpose as much stuff as I can too. So like I shared those guides, I can add the not so much the guides, but the ancillary content to multiple talks. And they're not perfect. Y'all will look at them and go, that's good. You know what? It's good enough. 90% is good enough. I am not going to obsess about being perfect. Um, quick recap. Thank you for asking the question. Quick recap for homework. Create a working draft of your talk proposal. Create at least one digital printable, and it's also in your that homework button that you're going to click. Update your your LinkedIn profile to say speaker or keynote speaker. And bonus, if you want to start creating your PowerPoint, you may already have one. If you're going to use one, that's kind of that bonus. Sometimes when I'm creating my talk proposals, it actually helps me if I've got 5 or 6 slides with pictures of the big things I'm going to go do if I haven't created that talk yet. Not going to go crazy creating it, but it can sometimes help just to organize my thoughts around, okay, yeah, I want this talk to be about these things. Remember, you have to create something that's consumable. Like sometimes we think, oh, they need to know this and they need to know that, and I got to include that. And it's too much. Make it consumable. If you are finding that in your key takeaways, you want to put 5, 6, 7 bullet points, you got at least 2 talks. There's some separation that needs to happen between those topics because even though you feel like I need to deliver more value, they're sitting there going, whoa, this is too much. So pare it down. Any final questions before we wrap up week 2?
I don't have a question, Carla, but I do want to give a little tip.
Yeah.
And what the trigger was that got you a second invite to the podcast.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I think we could leverage this. So I started noticing you sharing other people's content and promoting it. So, we do the work to create this LinkedIn post, but Carla came in and shared one of my posts and said, I really believe in this, and this is why. And Lisa, talks about this content. So what was she doing? She was really kind of returning the favor of when I had her on my show where I give people the microphone. I want to let them have the stage. I want to feature them. Like I want it to be a great experience for them. So they'll promote the show. So they'll share it with their audience. So they'll tell other people, oh, this is a good podcast to listen to, right? But when she did that, I think she also made a comment about something that showed her expertise around that topic. Okay. So think about that. If you've got expertise and this person comes in and comments with a point of view that you can then bring on to feature, this connects with my content, and this is her thought about it, right? Then all of a sudden she's given me an idea of this is how I could utilize her and bring her on again. She was a great guest the first time. She's very well spoken, as you can tell, and it had been enough time that I wanted to bring her back on. But she showed me and demonstrated by using my post how she could interact with my content. So I thought that was a
Thank you.
good, yeah. So keep doing that.
I love that. I love sharing other people's content too because it helps amplify them on the platform. They get visibility into a new audience. And that kind of stuff always comes back when you're trying to help other people,
Reciprocity.
all day long. And it's not like we do it to get something back, but when you do it with a kind, open heart and you're like really sharing, you can feel the difference, right?
You get back what you put out there.
Yeah,
If you put
100%.
caca out, you get caca back.
Exactly right. All right. I think that's a wrap. We are a third of the way through with the ending of this video, and I'll be looking for your content. Be sure to tag me and just know I'm going to give you tons and tons of feedback. You're in that dressing room. Take what fits, leave behind what does not fit, and I'll see y'all back here on next Saturday.
Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, bye, everybody.
Lisa, do you want to jump on?